All right. Let me introduce myself. My name is Michael Robinson. I am the founder of the Northridge Sports channel, basically. And so today I'm basically going to start the first official episode or podcast, if you will, of the actual channel. So I've been holding off doing this for a while, mainly because, I was looking to have a co-host, somebody that can, do these podcasts with me, and somebody that I can talk back and forth with and have some dialogue. Unfortunately, due to, schedules and, people's personal interests, I haven't been able to really, find the support that I wanted to get the ball rolling. So I figured, you know what, I'm just going to start just solo, for now. These initial pods are going to be like mini pods, I'm going to call them, because they're going to be roughly like 10 to 20 minutes in length. And I'm going to talk like probably anywhere from 1 to like maybe 4 topics, at the most, especially if they're like smaller things that I can kind of break down and talk about. But in future episodes, I do plan on having guests. I do hopefully one day can actually have an official co-host to host the pod with me, whether it's somebody that will do this in person with me, that we can talk back and forth one-on-one in person. I'll kind of have to set up the room, maybe have like a little mini couch and some an extra mic or something like that. I will eventually get a better camera, so there'll be some upgrades coming, but I just want to get started and get the ball rolling with what I got. So we'll see. So hopefully a lot of really good stuff can come in the future. And this is a learning process for me too. I'm really still very new into YouTube video creation and just new to just talking in front of a camera and like sharing my thoughts or whatever. But it's a passion of mine, one, because I really love sports, and I'm a fan of pretty much all sports, but the 2 sports that I'm the biggest fan of is basketball and combat sports. So that would include MMA or boxing, or even some other variety of combat sports and stuff like that. And it's interesting because as big of a fan as I am of it, I have played a bit of basketball, and I have done training, for like boxing and stuff like that. I did taekwondo, kickboxing, that kind of stuff. And I want to get into jiu-jitsu soon, just so I can like learn those skills and stuff like that. But I'm not a former fighter or a professional NBA player, but I do think the combination of the experience that I do have and really just my analytical mind for sports, and just being a huge fan and watching and consuming a lot of sports, I'm not gonna say it makes me the most qualified to talk about everything, or the greatest expert you can find on the internet. But I do think it gives me a little grounds on which to kind of like just share my own opinions, and for other people that are also fans, I think they could still appreciate the conversation and dialogue that we could potentially have amongst fans of sports. So because as fans, we still have our own opinions, we still have our own perspective on what we see from the game, what we want to see from the game, what we like about it, what we don't like about it, for fighting or NBA or other sports, which I do want to touch on a little bit of other sports, but it'll primarily be the 2 main 2. So yeah, I guess without further ado, I'm gonna get into the topic that I want to cover today, and I think it's the only thing I'm going to talk about. I've already given you a little bit of an intro already, and I'll probably kind of wrap things up with a little concluding thoughts, so to speak. But this topic should at least take me 5 to 10 minutes or whatever. So what I really want to get into is talking about the GOAT debate, because I feel like it's like the most talked about thing or most talked about singular topic, maybe in sports period, but for sure in like the sport of basketball. And there's GOAT debates in other sports and other genres too. Today I'm going to talk about basketball. And so, yeah, so basically, as you know, there's really like two GOATs that people kind of talk back and forth about. It's either Michael Jordan or LeBron James. And there might be a couple other people that are kind of sprinkled in there, but they have like nowhere near the strongest case. I think it's between Jordan and LeBron. And I just want to share like my thoughts and opinions on it, and then I don't know, kind of go from there. My first thought on it was just when I was thinking about this before I decided to record. I was thinking like, the GOAT debate. It's a debate that's old as old as pretty much LeBron has risen to GOAT status. I think even before he won a championship, there's always this conversation of the next greatest player to come along that can be the next Michael Jordan. And when LeBron came on the scene, he was immediately compared to Jordan pretty much and other greats. So hold on a sec. You're going to have to go upstairs. I'm making a video. Go upstairs. Go upstairs. Alright. I will be editing this out. Anyway, so, LeBron right away was being compared to Jordan. And there's been several players, pre-LeBron that was also compared to Jordan. Like, Jordan was like the gold standard. The bar was set as high as it could be by Jordan. Jordan was the player that every player after him was aspiring to be like. And as great as Kobe was as a player, most people felt like he fell a little bit short of Jordan's legacy. And I do think that Kobe in his own right had a little more variety of tools in his toolbox, particularly on the offensive end. And he was, arguably just as good defensively, or at least very close. So Kobe was, in my opinion, a very, very close second to Jordan, but most people felt like, he didn't quite do it. And I think largely, besides, some statistical and numerical things that Kobe fell short on, I think that just his lack of winning that 6-7 championships is what did it. And then early in his career, although he won three tagged along with a guy that was already established as the more dominant number one guy to the team. So Kobe was like number two to Shaq. So those three championships he won with Shaq, it's arguable that had Kobe not came into the right situation and been alongside Shaq, that he wouldn't have won those three. And he won them real early in his career at a stage where I don't think he was ready to be the number one guy leading a championship team. So, he kind of struggled later on, but eventually kind of figured things out, and he got two outside of Shaq. But it's still for most people's perspective, Kobe was no Jordan. So since Jordan, the only person to really challenge that number one spot is LeBron. And I'm going to get to LeBron in a second. But before that, I want to say pre-Jordan, there wasn't really a GOAT debate. I mean, there was a, they may have floated around players that they thought were the best or the best at the time and stuff like that. But I don't know if there was like this consensus like number one, greatest of all time, better than any other player we've ever seen, until Jordan came along. And what was interesting about Jordan coming on the scene, literally from his beginning seasons in the league, he was instantly viewed as like something we've never seen before. You had other athletic guys, you had high flyers that guys that dunked, guys that were offensively pretty good. You had like your Dr. J's. In my opinion, what's his name? Oscar Robertson was like the ultimate just hustle, energy player. He was kind of like a Russell Westbrook before Westbrook. You had Magic and Bird, but they kind of like specialized in a certain thing. And there was clearly, I don't know, holes or flaws in their games. There's, parts to them as individuals that didn't seem, I guess, unstoppable, so to speak. But Jordan came along and he just was a one man, like, Superman, or you know what I mean? Like, he just came and he was like something we had never seen before him. And what's interesting about Jordan is it's not just like his scoring ability, his ability to just shoot the ball or dunk or whatever. It was his willpower. It was his relentlessness. It was his like non-stop attack, on top of the fact that whatever he wanted to do on the court, he's pretty much unstoppable. And trust me, don't let anybody show you some little highlights of, oh, we're sick of the 90s or whatever. Don't let that fool you. Look at the numbers that he put up. They're historic all time. He has a record for most points per game throughout his entire career. And this is a guy that played 82 games most seasons that he played, or close to it. Like, didn't miss a game. For him to score at that high of a level, he's literally number one in points per game. I'm not saying all-time points, because he didn't have the longevity of some other players that played 20 seasons. Like Jordan. Jordan arguably played like I know he played 15 seasons, but if you subtract like the season he was injured, where there wasn't a full season, the season where he came back after his first retirement, just to jump into the playoffs, like that wasn't a full season. I don't know if you really count the Wizards seasons at all, but at least those were full seasons that he played. But even if you just at least subtract the 2 out of his 15, that's 13 seasons where he had like a full availability to play. And then again, I would say those couple of Wizards seasons he was just kind of old and not playing like he did in his prime. So to still be really high on the all-time scoring list, and he didn't play 20 seasons, like that's insane production that he played and scored points per game. So he was out there just like tearing up the court. Like anybody in front of him, he was just tearing through them, scoring. Now, and then okay, I'm gonna leave it at that for now. So Jordan. Before Jordan, I don't think there really was a GOAT debate. Post Jordan, the debate was always, will there be another Jordan ever? Then comes along LeBron. Now let's talk about LeBron. We all know that when you talk about things that, well, okay, let's first start with championships. LeBron has 5 actually. What does he? No, 4. All right. I forgot for a second. LeBron has 4. Now I know those years in Cleveland when he was going up against the Warriors. I mean, he had tough competition versus a really really stacked team. So I personally kind of feel like, man, who could have beat that Warriors team with KD? You know what I mean? And then I mean it's arguable what team in history that you may have thought was really really dominant. I mean, like Shaq and Kobe's, Lakers, the Spurs in their prime, obviously Jordan's Bulls, the Showtime Lakers with Magic and Kareem. Maybe that Celtics squad that was rough and tough, led by Larry Bird, or the Detroit Pistons, the bad boy Pistons, really really tough team. And let's forget about any teams older than that, right? like what team could have beat that Warriors team? And it's like it's hard to imagine a team that could have. And the style of play in years past, they may not know what to do at all with the offensive schemes of newer teams, and the fact that you'd have to shut down multiple offensive threats. It's not like in the past where there was like one guy. Now keep in mind, teams in the past might have only had to worry about 1 or 2 really good offensive players on the court, and everybody else was kind of just running around playing their role or whatever, playing defense, hustling, grabbing rebounds. But the fact that the floor was shrunk and there wasn't a lot of three-point shooting, and the fact that there were still players like Jordan able to dominate and make their way through defenses and score, that lets you know right there that, yes, offense wasn't as great back in those days, but there was like defense was tougher. Like, you as an offensive player to have to fight through, multiple people getting to the basket, like, and most baskets were, or most points were scored like driving into the paint, like that makes those players even more impressive. And the fact that if you were to take them, just pluck them out of their era and drop them in today's era where there's a whole lot of floor spacing, those players would just be completely unguardable. The type of defense that Jordan had to fight through to score back in those days, these days he could easily score like he could easily score like I don't know, like probably upwards to like 80, 90, getting close to Wilt's 100 points damn near every night. Low games would be him scoring 40. Like you know what I'm saying? Like I'm fairly confident that Jordan could easily put up 50, 60 points a night. Like average somewhere around 50 to 60 points with today's defense, compared to what he had to face in the past. If he was able to fight through that and then score in the paint at will, imagine today. There's no one that could guard him, in my opinion. Well, there wouldn't be many people that can guard him. And then imagine if his team around him could shoot, then he could just pass it out. But anyway, I'm rambling on about that. Let's compare LeBron for a second. So first thing, a lot of people say rings. That LeBron doesn't have the rings that Jordan has. And I know there's people that'll say, oh well, whoever it is, Robert Horry has like a ton of rings, or Bill Russell has a ton of rings. Why wouldn't that guy be the GOAT if it's just about rings? Well, that's the thing. It's not just about rings, But rings is a very, very important marker. Like you can't never have won a ring and then say you're the greatest, and then vice versa. Like, let's say you have won a ring, but another guy has won 6 rings, and all you got is 3. You can't say you're better than that guy, because for you to be the best, you would have had to also been the best in your era, better than any other player or any other team that could have possibly gone up against. You know, a ring is like a marker that you're in this club of the best. Now, LeBron's got a few. It's only a couple shy of what Jordan has. So he's in that conversation. And then real quick to talk on like the Robert Horry, Bill Russell thing or whatever. Robert Horry was never considered the number one guy. He just was tagged along teams that had super talent and won championships. Literally like the Lakers and the Spurs. Like, you know what I mean? So of course he tagged along and got a bunch of rings, but he was never the guy that led the team to success. Now he might have made a big shot to win a game or something like that. Great. But his production on the basketball court wasn't what carried that team to the finals or, you know, won the series ultimately. I mean that's just an obvious fact. So he can't be in the conversation at all. Bill Russell, he has more of an argument, right? But here's the problem with Bill Russell. Bill Russell played in an era where at times there were only 8 teams in the entire NBA. How are you going to play in an era where there's only 8 teams in the NBA and today there's 30? When Jordan played, 30, right? So there's really not a comparison. There's way more competition, way more teams in this modern day versus when Bill Russell played. It was literally the very, very beginning of the NBA. The NBA was basically the most elite like basketball club or you know what I mean, like you know, like I have a work league at work where a bunch of us get together and play, you know, guys that we work with, and there, you know, there's some good players. There's some guys that are tall, you know, guys that used to play basketball, high school, some college or whatever. So, you know, I almost think if you take a group of us today for my job in our work league and then put us back in the early NBA, we might beat the early NBA players. That was the level of competition in those days. I mean, there wasn't as much depth. And I'm not saying those guys weren't skilled or good or athletic or big guys or whatever, but there just wasn't it just wasn't as evolved or developed as it is today. I mean, you know, like people say the 90s, you know, was less skilled than today's players. Imagine the 60s. Like, come on now. Like, there's 90s is way closer to modern basketball. If not, I would say the 90s, you know, and further is modern basketball. Anything like pre-80s is nowhere near modern basketball. And 80s, I think, was a transition period. Hey, boo-boo. Alright, anyway. So Bill Russell. And then the other thing, too, is that Celtics team was like a stacked team. It had the best players. So year after year after year, season after season, they dominated. They dominated because it wasn't just Bill Russell. They had like a stacked team of players that were good enough to beat all these other teams. Even if the other teams had like a player or two that were really good to kind of rival them, they didn't have the depth that the Celtics had. The Celtics had the best team in those early days of basketball, and so consequently they were able to just go on a win streak and win a ton in a row. That era also didn't have a 3-point line. And there was other like weird stuff that like you can't compare that era to today. So Bill Russell, to me, even though I still think he's great for a lot of reasons, he's not even in my top 10 all-time players. So he's just outside of the top 10, but for me he's not a top 10 player of all time. So he can't possibly be in the conversation for the GOAT debate, and I don't think anybody else has that comparison either. So anyway, enough about that. So, going back to LeBron, when you look at the accolades that LeBron has versus Jordan has more MVPs, more Finals MVPs. I wonder if he has more All-Star MVPs. I don't have this information in front of me at the moment. I've looked it up in the past. But if you look at the accolades that each of them won, Jordan has a little more awards for different things. Individual awards outside of just the championships. And what's interesting is I think prime LeBron was a very good defensive player. But he doesn't have the accolades to back that up either. Jordan does, and I think despite Jordan's lack of size compared to LeBron, Jordan was like very, very relentless on defense, especially when he wanted to lock in on the defensive end of the court. Like Jordan could really especially against other guards close to his size and smaller, Jordan could do a really good job of locking people down. And I think young Jordan too was a bit more like just energetic on both ends of the court and stuff like that. But anyway, then when we're talking about stats and numbers, so this is kind of where LeBron takes the cake, in my opinion. Statistically, Jordan really only has one thing over LeBron, and that's that he's a better offensive player. And when I say better offensive player, I don't mean that he's higher than LeBron in terms of all-time points, because we know LeBron is currently number one. He passed Kareem. LeBron has the most points all-time of any player that ever played. Jordan, however, has the most points per game of any player that ever played. And LeBron's nowhere near that, nor will he ever get it, because it's a stat that's given for per game stats. LeBron could keep on scoring and put up more all-time numbers, but in terms of points per game, Jordan's number one. So to me, when you kind of look at least the offensive part, LeBron's numbers are a reflection of his longevity, the number of years that he played. If Jordan could have played that long, 20 seasons or more, Jordan would be number one all-time points. And I think LeBron would still be chasing all-time points at this point, you know what I mean, in his career. Now, the fact that Jordan didn't play as long could be a knock on Jordan. And the fact that LeBron has played longer is not to his discredit. I mean, it's, if anything, it's to his credit that he's been able to play that long and then have sustained, greatness for that longevity period. So, and then you got to look at LeBron in this, right? Rebounds, assists, like every other statistical category, LeBron pretty much has over Jordan. I personally think that if Jordan wanted to be, he could have been like Russell Westbrook. He could have been like Oscar Robertson. He could have been a player that was going for triple doubles, was trying to get rebounds, was trying to get assists. There's no way that Jordan didn't have the capability of also rebounding and assists and stuff like that. It's not like he couldn't have done it. It's that Jordan focused on the offensive stuff as his sole focus, and he let the other players on his team play their role. He let other guys rebound the ball, like Dennis Rodman and Horace Grant and I don't know, whatever center they had, Luke Longley, like those guys played their role. They rebound the basketball. He had other guys to assist the basketball. Scottie Pippen and Ron Harper, other guys that could pass the ball. Jordan only needed the ball in his hands. He did majority of the scoring. A lot of baskets may have been unassisted. So, and because of Jordan's ability to score, he didn't need to pass the ball. So, but if he wanted to, I don't doubt for a second that he could have, because you look at Jordan and there's no question that his skill, his ability, his willpower, his determination, his aggressiveness on the court, his desire to win, like there's no question in my mind that if Jordan wanted to do anything, he had the physical capability to do it. The only thing you could say that maybe Jordan couldn't have done is he probably couldn't have guarded players that were much bigger than him. Maybe 50-50 on small forwards, and Jordan probably wouldn't have been able to one-on-one guard, power forwards and centers and stuff like that. So yeah, Jordan wasn't guarding them. But even though LeBron kind of can guard all five positions, LeBron kind of struggles against point guards, especially these modern point guards. They're very crafty. I think even Jordan would have probably had a hard time versus some of these modern day point guards. But also LeBron struggles against centers or really big, strong power forwards. Like LeBron needs a little help on defense. He's not some of these really talented wing players today. Like Jason Tatum's and stuff like that. When they really get it going and they're cooking offensively, it's hard for LeBron to guard them, especially older LeBron. I think prime LeBron would have did a much better job. But so I think the thing that LeBron has over Jordan is the ability to guard more positions. But really, really elite players, man, it's hard for anybody to guard. It's hard for anybody to guard if you're not a defensive specialist. And as great as I think prime Jordan was at defense, as well as prime LeBron, I don't know if they're either one of them are the greatest defender of all time. But in terms of the greatest of all time, which one overall do I think is the better defender? I'm a side with LeBron, even though Jordan has the accolades. So I mean, so when we're kind of measuring greatness, we have to take the awards and the accolades and things they were able to accumulate in their career when judging their career and comparing the two. But then the last thing I'm gonna talk about, and this is the thing that really, in my opinion, all right. So got a little interruptions, but I'm editing this out. So this last topic, this is the thing that kind of separates the two. It's the thing, in my opinion, that separates Jordan from LeBron. There's something that Jordan has that anybody who watched Jordan play in the 90s, early 2000s, people that were able to watch him live or see highlights and clips of Jordan see his legacy, see his story, understand what he did. There's something about Jordan that he has over LeBron that is intangible. It's something that numbers do not tell. Trophies, the hardware, stats, none of that can tell you exactly what you see when you see Jordan versus when you see LeBron. Jordan was just like how should I say? It's like he has this aura around him as a player. It's like he has this this mystique, this presence that's unexplainable. But even former players will tell you themselves. To them, they looked up to Jordan. They looked up to Jordan coming up, and felt like he was the gold standard. And even players that played alongside LeBron and have seen him since Jordan, they still think like, no, man, there's just something about Jordan that LeBron just doesn't have. Even Kobe, a lot of players will say, man, Kobe was their guy, because Kobe had a little bit of that. He had a little bit of that Jordan aura. A little bit of Jordan rubbed off on Kobe, because Kobe was like a little bit of. He had that mystique. He had that mysteriousness, that Mamba mentality. That he had this this raw focus, this killer. They're like you probably hear people throwing around the term, "Who got the killer in them?" And yeah, numbers and stats and, this person won this and did that, whatever. Like, dude, like when you watch the players on the court and see the type of attention that's given to them, the type of impact and the effect that they have from their presence on the court, there's this presence that Jordan had, Kobe had to a certain extent, that LeBron just doesn't have. And I have an interesting theory that I'm going to propose. I think that if LeBron was more mean, a bit of an asshole, had this rough demeanor to him, seriousness to him, viciousness to him, if he had this dog in him, I think that LeBron would be the greatest player of all time. I think if LeBron, let's say he had Draymond Green's personality, maybe not ejected from games as much as Draymond, but hey, if he's ejected from a game or two, so be it. It gets the message across. It puts the point across that LeBron ain't nothing to F with. Also, man, I'm sorry, but when I see highlights and clips of LeBron flopping from nothing, barely getting touched, dude, man, I don't know. That just puts a bad look. And I think LeBron is a talented player. I think he's skilled. I think he's great. I think he's awesome and all that kind of stuff. But when you see the little clips of him flopping and falling and stuff like that, and then on top of that he's just such a nice guy, he doesn't have that he just doesn't have this intimidation factor. I literally think that's what separates him from being the GOAT. On top of these other intangible qualities of greatness that clearly Jordan, carried. That LeBron just doesn't seem to have that aura, that sense. LeBron's great, and I think he'll always be remembered as great in a lot of people's minds, maybe number one. But the reason why it's not a unanimous feeling is because he's just lacking something that Jordan has. And again, championships, accolades, Jordan has that. Stats, LeBron has that. The eye test, the aura, the impact that he's made as a player, I think Jordan's still number one. In my opinion, Jordan edges out LeBron. LeBron, I don't think he can. I don't think there's anything he can do at this stage to edge out Jordan as number one. And yes, there's a lot of people that will say he is, but it ain't gonna be unanimous. It ain't gonna be unanimous, and it's because he's just missing something. He's just missing something. Anyway, all right. So that's it for my Go Debate talk. I hope I covered everything pretty well. I have some other thoughts, but I ain't gonna ramble on longer or whatever. And I just want to wrap up and conclude. So this went a little longer than I was expecting. I was expecting to go 20 minutes. I went now about 40 minutes. And this was literally just my thoughts off the top of my head, not I did kind of pre-think of this a little bit ahead of time, but I didn't write anything down or organize this talk today. Future episodes will be a little more constructed, where I'll literally have some notes and things that I'm like kind of guiding the topics or whatever. And I'm gonna talk about like current events, but I'm also gonna talk about a little bit of history and stuff like that. So it'll be a mix of stuff. So tune in. Hopefully you'll enjoy this. And we'll see where it goes. I'm open to criticism. I'm open to comments and suggestions. So if anybody want to like share their thoughts, also I think people will really appreciate and enjoy me having like a co-host to this or whatever. So stay tuned for the next little pod of the Northridge Sports channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.